Hey guys, welcome back. I want to make this video today because I've had a lot of requests recently to go through my mindset on all of these fights in Old War, and hopefully some of these notes can give you some new ideas, make you think of something new and innovative, or just increase your overall. I hope you enjoy. Let's get straight into it. The first thing I want to do is skip right over Flame Leviathan. We don't care about Flame Leviathan. You get into Demo, you get thrown up, you do some damage, whatever. But I want to go straight into Ignis. And Ignis is an interesting fight. There's only a few things you can kind of do to increase your damage relatively, and that is dropping Demonic Port. Most people tank Ignis in this fire. I've seen strategies where they pull Ignis here, they drag him off to the side, and move him over here. So say Ignis is starting in this area, and your raid leader calls for a pull timer. We walk up, we pop our pre-pot Wild Magic for Demo and for Affliction, and then the tank, whoever it may be, let's use a Paladin, pulls the boss and slowly drags it into the water over here. So you want to position yourself in a way where you don't have to do a lot of movement. So if you're far enough range, it'll slowly just move over. You don't have to move. Maybe take a few steps forward, and make sure you drop your Demonic Port here as well. So you drop your Demonic Port. This is pretty patchworky fight. The only thing that you need to be aware of is Flame Jets, which will just knock you up spontaneously and kick any school that you're casting. So when he uses Flame Jets, this is your opportunity to, if you need mana, you can life tap if you're knocked up. Life tap on the way down during those free instant cast globals. You could reapply Curse of Agony in the air if you need to, or if your mana's fine and all your instant dots are still on the boss, you could use your Demonic Portal, and instantly when you get knocked up on the way up, not when you reach the apex, like instantly when you knock up, if you hit the global, hit your teleport and get back on the boss. You can save a global or two doing that, and it's really useful on just the boss in general. And I think that's about it for Ignis. It's a very straightforward fight. There's not a lot to min-max there. So, alright, Razor Scale. Razor Scale is pretty straightforward. I also am going to go over which ads kind of count for Warcraft logs and which don't. So this will help any parses that you have. And all these little ads, they don't count at all. So we go to my Razor Scale and look at the damage that I did. And it's literally just Razor Scale that matters. So the damage on the ads doesn't matter. I typically volunteer to shoot the ballistas because I don't care about doing damage to the ads and someone has to do it. But the only real tip I have for Razor Scale is before Razor Scale hits 50%, at 50%, it's the big knockback, pushback, or whatever. So what you want to do is you want to drop your Demonic Port, and before the knockback, you want to get ready to teleport. But another thing that I learned recently is that if you have a Paladin in your group that can bop you, or hop you, sorry. If you get hopped, Hand of Protection, you don't get knocked back. So you don't need to use a global on teleporting anyway. If you call for a Paladin to hop you, you can keep uptime on the boss, and then the boss moves maybe a little bit with your tank. But this fight, there's not a lot of optimization, but the hop can be the difference between pink parse and orange parse because of those two globals, because the fight is so quick. Alright, XT. Now, XT is a little bit more complicated than some of the other fights, because a lot of the mobs count towards said parse. You can see life sparks, the heart counts, the scrap bots count. So when you're positioning yourself, typically the range are over here, the melee, I'll just use Death Knight, are on the left foot, and then you have sparks, searing lights being dropped over here, and gravity bombs over here. So in the beginning of the fight, if you're doing hard mode, you're going to be pushing the boss's heart relatively quickly. I would pop my 1 to 2 minute cooldowns, probably just gloves in the beginning to push it. So hopefully you could skip the first tantrum, which requires around like 75% health. I think the boss does the first tantrum at. So if you can meet that DPS check, that's really nice. So pop everything you have at the beginning just to get it out. You should be able, with the nerf, you should be able to kill the heart relatively with ease. And when that heart is first coming out, there's going to be the boom bots and the scrap bots coming out from the side. A little bit of extra cheese will be walking over, and you can see the little ones. And if you single target the big one, it explodes and does more damage. But for your personal damage, if you're seeding the scrap bots, that's more damage when it comes to the log. And if you're doing hard mode, it is just these 2 waves. So the damage on these could be extra cheese to push your parse for the just either side of scrap bots. So you seed 1 scrap bot, seed 2 scrap bot, seed 3 scrap bots, and then blow up the middle one, or throw a shadow bolt into the one with a seed, and those will delete very quickly. And then you're moving into the pure hard mode. If there's pummelers up, just put up like UA and corruption and agony and watch them take down. They have a lot of health, so the agony is kind of worth it there. But every time the searing light is coming during hard mode and spawns an ad, I throw up a UA and a corruption onto it, because A, it has to die very quickly, and B, that damage adds up relatively quickly as well. So just throw up like the main dots. I throw up agony, but people tell me that's not worth it because they don't last that long. But sometimes the DPS aren't focusing it at all. But I know they need to die, and if you have a searing light during a tantrum, it's really bad. So try to multi-dot as best you can between the life spark and the boss. That's the goal here. And that's about it for XT, because it's just life spark boss, life spark boss, life spark boss, and it dies. So this is a real test of your multi-dotting skills. If you get like gravity bomb, you'll have to run over here, drop the gravity bomb, and just port back instantly. And if you have searing light, you have to come over here, drop your searing light, run back. So a lot of moving around, a lot of multi-dotting, a lot of positioning. But there's the ads are the key to getting a good XT parse every single time. All right, moving on to Assembly of Iron. Now, Assembly of Iron, your parse really depends on your tank. Now, I'm assuming you're doing this hard mode, and your tank will have to position the second guy in a way where you can overlap Runes of Power. Now, Runes of Power are little blue circles on the floor, which gives you 50% increased damage. And there's moments when your tank is tanking, like if your tank is tanking it on the edge, where it's slightly not in the melee can still hit it, and your tank is tanking it, and the Rune Master will drop another Rune of Power, and it'll slightly, ever so slightly overlap, just like that. And if you stand in between that, you'll get a moment where they will be stacked together, and you will get 100% increased damage on your abilities. And what you want to do is you need to snapshot that corruption onto Steelbreaker and the current target, and maintain that Steelbreaker corruption the rest of the fight. This is after the little guy is dead. So you want to snapshot that 100% damage corruption on these two. And that is the only way you can get a 99 on this fight. I did this on my main Warlock a little while ago. I don't even think I got a 99. I only got a 97. And you can see when I went all in here. And look at the corruption damage. I did 1,000,000 damage to Steelbreaker. Skitter also snapshotted. I think I dropped my Infernal as well. And it's very hard to parse this fight and get like an orange or higher right now, because people are very adept at snapshotting their corruption here. But the goal is that let's just start from beginning to end. You walk in, you life tap pre-pot. I do wild magic. You could do what you want as Demo or Affliction, and walk in and you just kill the little guy. It's no big deal. You can kick him if you can, and keep up your dots. Run to the rune when it gets dropped for the first time, and then once the first guy's dead, then you just have the Rune Master and the big guy, and hopefully you could get any moment where you find two runes that can overlap. You put up your corruption, and then you maintain on Steelbreaker your corruption. You hold until he drops the rune again. He dies, and then you put in everything you have into Steelbreak. You drop your Infernal, everything. It's the race, very fun race. As Demo, I would drop my meta in the first Rune of Power, because usually it's up at the end for the burst on Steelbreaker during that second Rune of Power when you're going up at the end. And that's about it. Assembly of Iron is pretty straightforward. You're min-maxing your time with your cooldowns in the Runes of Power, and you should have a good parse. Golagard. Now, this fight is pretty weird. I've seen a lot of different ways of doing the fight. I've seen people that just like seed the body the entire time with like UA on the arms, but what I'd like to do is that as Affliction, I'll just drop my port somewhere in the back, move in, and I'll just multi-dot all the arms the entire fight. And you can do that effectively with focus dot macros, which I could add in at the end of the video. I'll just put them in the description. And focus dot macros are nice. I sometimes just tab because there's just these 3 targets once the rubble's dead. So I'll put up Haunt, UA, Agony, Corruption in the beginning. Make sure Shadow Bolt's on the main body and the arm, and I'll put up UA, Corruption, Agony, UA, Corruption, Agony once those Shadow Bolt debuffs are up. And then I'll maintain Corruption on these 2 while killing this. That dies. Then you just need to maintain dots on 2 of them. Maintain dots on 2 of them. Pump Shadow Bolts into the body. Maintain dots. And then eventually this will respawn. Put your full dots in. Go nuts again on this one while maintaining dots on these 2. This dies, this is really low, this dies, and then the body just falls apart. I mean, it's a very straightforward fight, but it's a real test of your multi-dot management. And you just have to look at the timers on each of them. Like, I see UA expiring on the left arm while we're bursting down the right arm, for example. And I'll re-put up UA on this while people are doing damage to that. It's not my Shadow Bolts. I'll put up UA here and maybe Agony here and go back to Shadow Bolting here. It's real tests of your timers management and understanding how fast your abilities cast. So for Demo, it's the same thing, but with Immolate and Corruption. You just keep up Immolate, Corruption on things. At the start of the fight, you move up here, pop Meta in between these 2, so you get max Immo Aura on these 2. And then I like to port back because I don't like to be in close to range, because if you get aggro on the Rubbles do not count for your logs at all. So if you're AoEing the Rubble, it does no damage. Like, it doesn't count. Like, there's no Rubble in the logs. So be careful doing that. I guess wasting empty damage on things that don't matter. Those can be passively cleaved. If you're getting yelled at to see that that's like the melee could take care of that. It's not necessary. I never touch them, and it's fine. So watch out for Rubble, and Demo, just maintain your dots and pump Shadow Bolts and try to steal Decimation procs off of the arms and pump them into the body. So that's about it for Kolagharn. Moving on to Araya. Araya is pretty easy, very straightforward. They recently took away the little guys, the little Guardian Swarms do not count for your damage at all. They do not count for your damage. These sentries, the 4 sentries that she's with at the start, those all count, as well as the Feral Defender, which spawns mid-fight and likes to randomly pounce on you for some reason and interrupt you and kick you. So that is a large piece of RNG during the fight to see what this little fucker does, and hopefully he doesn't pick you when you're having a bad day. So keep an eye out for that. But at the start of the fight, when she's coming in, she's got her 4 little guys. Affliction and Demo, I would call for a hop. There's a very high chance that you get aggro and die. Demo, you pre-life tap, wild magic, pop seeds, Immo Aura, everything off the rip. Just boom, AoE, AoE, AoE. As Affliction, I put Corruption on 1, Corruption on 2. While they're coming in, not while they're already in. If they're already in, it's kind of too late. You have to start seeding immediately while your trinkets and ICDs are procced. So you just blow these up. Then we're in position. We drop our Demonic Port right there. Hopefully you have a Shaman in your group. If you have a Shaman in your group that's dropping Tremor, that makes things a lot better for you. You have a lot more uptime on the boss, so keep an eye out for that. Or ask for one to be moved into your group, or ask to move groups or whatever. It really depends on your raid lead. And then the only thing you have to worry about then is the Feral Defender spawning. Once the Feral Defender spawns, you just throw some dots up on it. If you get feared, let's, for example, run all the way over here. If you have your port down, you can just port back instantly and get back straight into it. Still stacked. Raid leader's not going to yell at you. But if you have Tremor, still 1, 2, 3, maybe you go here and the fear stops. You could just do a little bit more DPS on the boss because you're still kind of within range. But make sure you're not griefing the Sonic Screech, because it is a cone, and if it needs to hit your raid to soak the damage, or else a bunch of people are going to die and everyone's going to be pissed. So that's about it for Araya. Pretty straightforward fight, no hard mode for Demo and for Affliction. Mr. Hodir. The Fusion Special, Mr. Hodir. At the start of a fight, there's going to be these flash freezes up. what we typically do is we pick one of the flash freezes. I think the one all the way on the right, because that's the one that drops the fire to get the singed buff. We do a 60-second pull timer and put our dooms up here on this one. And then once the dooms are at around 4 seconds, you can start seeding. Make sure there's no bomb in your seed macro, like Curse or Serenite Bomb. That's not very good. But you'll target one, you'll start casting seed. It'll start doing damage after like 4 seconds. So you'll get 1 seed, 2 seed, 3 seeds, and then the fight begins. And that's when we got to talk more about everything. So what do you look for? The tank will typically drag Hodir to one of the corners to bait the NPCs into that area. Now, you're going to be starting probably over here-ish. Seed, seed, seed. And you have to follow the tank a little bit. So just make the slightest move so you're still in range. Now, all around you, there's going to be like icicles dropping from the ceiling. Icicle, icicle, icicle. For Demo and Affliction, just icicles falling from the ceiling. And the first thing you're going to look for is a goddamn fire. Goddamn toasty fire. You're going to get goddamn toasty near the fire. And you're going to start cranking shadow bolts into this mob. Because you want to get the singed stacks into 25 as fast as possible. Ideally, before the first storm power goes out. That is ideal. If your tank is bringing Hodir to the melee, so the melee could go ahead and just hit Hodir as much as they can. That's really good, because melee can also apply singe buffs, but not all guilds do that. So some just have the range, run over to the fire, but don't get too close to the fire because you'll put out the fire. And you'll put up singed debuff on the boss. Just put it up. It stacks up to 25. I recommend getting a weak aura that tracks all 3 of these: storm power, the haste buff, and the singed. And we stack to 25. And then what are we looking for? We are looking for a beam to stand under. Our priorities are toasty fire to 25, maintaining that stack. If their hunter's not going to do it, you do it, because you'd rather get the hard mode kill where you could get a cool staff or something than have to wipe 6 times because your hunters are being hard-headed. So you keep up the fire. If it's gonna fall off, be the hero that the guild needs, not that they deserve. So keep up the stacks. That is #1 priority. Say all stacks are up. We find a beam of light, we stand in it, we do damage. You could kind of hover around the sides and bait the icicles in a way where you can use a beam, but look for beams without a lot of people in it. That would be ideal. Because if there's less people in your beam, then there's less likely you have icicles, and the less movement you have to do, the more uptime you have. That is, the name of the game is uptime. Now, Storm Power. Now, Storm Power, this buff is what determines how much damage you do on the fight. You need to find this buff if you want to do lots of damage every single time. It increases your crits by like 135%. And in conjunction with Singed and the haste buff, you're going to be pounding in 80k shadow bolts 6 or 7 times in a row. Just crank, 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 crank. You're going to be doing like 20k DPS. It's going to be fun. It's going to be sick. Everyone's going to be like, how the hell are you doing that? So it's going to pop up. Say you have some rogue and your rogue gets it. And ideally, your rogue runs out to range, because range scales so hard with the buffs in this fight that he's like running out to range like rocket booting. He's just flinging the buff around. And when you see that first storm power come up, if you want to do damage, you get there. I don't know where it is. You get there. That is the new priority. Is 25 stacks of Singe, storm power buff, beam. And once you get this buff, and it only goes out to 6 people, you get the buff, you find a beam, and you start blasting, cranking. And you call for salve if you need it, or you shatter. You use your own threat reduction before you call for cooldowns. Never call for cooldowns. And if you call for a cooldown, you say, blank paladin, salve me. Don't just say, I need a salve. No one's gonna salve you. No one cares. Everyone's in their own world. You need to say, blank, give me a salve now. And if they're on it, they got you. But just to remember, one more time. Singed 25. Then storm power. And then haste buff. If you can actively manage getting these on the boss, you will have an insane parse on Hodir. This is one of my favorite fights of the tier. In this log, I managed to do so. I did 19.2k, and I had really good positioning. I was able to crank. Also, for another pro tip, you can snipe decimation on the flash freezes. Also need to add in here that flash freezes are more important than any of these. More important than any of these. You need to get the flash freezes. That is extremely, extremely important. But this is your priority order as a DPS. Like, a lot of people mistake, they see the beam, they just go for it first. No, this is the last priority. Once you have everything else. Once you have everything else. If this isn't out yet, then this moves up. But if this is out, it goes. It's a dynamic list. So it's a lot, but this is one of the most fun fights in the tier for casters, so keep an eye out on that. And that's about it for Hodir right now. If you have any more questions, please let me know, or ask in the comments. Thorim. So Mr. Thorim. The ads literally they don't matter. The ads don't matter. It only counts the damage you do on the boss. That's it. So you gotta just do big damage on the boss. And this fight is very RNG based, because say your guild puts you here. If you went in the tunnel and you hit the top and jump off, sometimes your pet gets stuck up there. So I recommend at the start of the fight, while you're all in the arena, drop a port wherever you're going to be. Hopefully your guild positions you close to this end. And then you take your demonic port to get down faster. And your pet typically follows you after you port. So like, you need to do that, or you'll have to resummon your pet. And there's affliction that's 10 seconds, and you basically lose your damage for the week if you kill Thorim that way, because not having your pet's a massive DPS loss. So port in the beginning, you get into position, and you start doing your rotation. And I recommend just staying in that like blizzard spot beforehand, because if the blizzard starts happening in your area, like on top of you, you're just gonna have to move forward. So you can just start a little bit closer, and that's fine, but you can't get too close, or else you'll chain lightning, and then everybody will be pissed at you. But this fight is very RNG based on blizzard and lightning charge. If you get a lightning charges sent into your area, then you're going to be moving, and you're going to have bad uptime. So this fight is getting a good parse. It's very, very RNG based, but there's not much you have to look for here, because it's just standing and cranking. Make sure you're on top of your survival abilities, health stone, death coil, etc. And once you move out during a lightning charge and lightning charge goes off, kaboom, kaboom, just port back and start your rotation again. But Thorim's pretty straightforward. Freya. Now, Freya is a complicated fight. And it's complicated because Freya, all of the ads count towards your parse. So, how do we do more damage to Freya? Now, the damage on Freya before the third phase doesn't count in logs. So it doesn't matter if you're keeping your dots up on her the entire fight. The things that matter are the ads in each of the phases. Now, I will go through each of the phases and talk about what I look for and what I do. But I am a more teamish oriented player, so I typically do more damage to things like the big tree and the roots. But if you really want to parse, you have to be a huge rat about it and not really focus those things as much. I would not recommend that. Do not do that. Please do the mechanics. But in the timeline that we're at, this is what people are doing to get high Freya parses. And I'm going to talk about the Ancient Conservator first. Spawns the mushrooms. Mushrooms give a damage buff. You look for a free mushroom. You stand under it. You snapshot your corruption with a 25% extra damage, and you do your normal rotation. This is pretty easy. There's nothing really you can cheese here. If you see a tree, you go kill the tree. If not, you just keep fighting a mushroom and you do damage to the boss. Now, when this dies, the mushrooms are still here. Say you get the triple pack next. You can snapshot percent damage corruption on all three of these and maintain it, which is more damage than just seeding them. But say this isn't here, I like to put my dots up on the Snap Lasher, Haunt, UA, Corruption, and just seed the hell out of it, because that's more damage. You can also put UA up on the other two, but the Water Spear dies very quickly, and the Snap Lasher usually dies last. Make sure the Snap Lasher dies with the others, but there's not that much you could do that will change things. in this phase. Besides if you have the mushroom up, it's not really. There's just 3 targets. Try to keep your dots up on them. And then the detonators, they are not complicated either. There's like 20 of them. There's like 10 of them. I don't know why I said there's 20 of them. But as Affliction, I put Corruption up on 2 of them to try to get Eradication procs, and then you just seed them. And hopefully you drop your port away. They're exploding. You move out. You get a seed or 2 more. And then they just die. And then you move on to Freya herself. Most people just use the river. Drop a port here. Move across. Drop the little seed things. Port. Move across. And then it's pretty simple. It really depends on if you get like where your mushrooms spawn, your dot management, and kind of the raid positioning to determine how much of a parse you get. I don't think I've had a really good Freya parse myself. Like I've gotten like high 90s, low 90s, but it all comes together somehow. I spend a lot of time looking for trees and roots because that's just what I do. And high damage in those is what satisfies me. So we like being useful to our raid and having people thank us. Now, Mr. Mimiron. Now, there's a lot of debate in this fight. Now, let's look at what actually counts for damage in Mimiron. Basically everything. The assault bots, the fire bots, I don't think the junk bots count. Let's double check that. Oh, junk bots do count. So all the little ads count in this fight. But let's just go over phase by phase real quick. First phase, straightforward. The tank typically takes over here to the button. You're spreading out for napalm shell. You're just doing your normal rotation. Your tank moves around the room to the other side. There's a flame torrent and there's no more fire. And this, you can't really optimize this first phase. It's just don't die and do as much damage as you can on the body. And the second phase, people typically lust the second phase. You just don't die and pump your damage into them. There's not much you can do there either. Third phase, air phase. This is when the optimization can come in. There's all the ads. There's the fire bots. There's the junk bots. There's the bomb bots. There's the assault bots. As a demo, I like putting my pet on the assault bot so I can keep up demonic pack for the raid. Same with Affliction. I'll throw my Fellhound at this pet, or at this, because if you're tanking the head or if you're just damaging the head, your pet's kind of useless. I look for opportunities to put up dots on junk bots while moving, Corruption for Eradication, or just Corruption for Molten Core, either way. And these will die a lot faster because of it, and you'll take aggro off your healers, which is better for the raid. But this phase typically lasts pretty quickly, and the damage on the ads is the difference between a high parse and a semi-high parse, and then also your management of the third phase. The third phase, there's the head, the body, and the legs. And I've seen people put dots on the head, dots on the bottom, and seed the middle, and that does pretty solid damage, but I like to just dot as Affliction, but as Demo I like to seed because we don't have as powerful of dots. But obviously, once you get like one, if one is bigger, more HP left than the others, then I would swap to that and have a single target with decimation procs, and make sure you're popping meta. I also wouldn't Immo Aura in this phase. I don't think it's worth it. But Affliction, I multi-dot all 3. And as Demo, I would seed, because our dots do less damage, and that makes things easier. But Mimiron is just optimizing the bots and surviving. And making sure you have rocket boots for this fourth phase is really, really clutch. And having a decent demonic portal position where there's not much fire would also come in handy as well. Vez. Now, I made a video about Vez already, so I won't talk about Vez that long. If you want to optimize your rotation, check out my other video on how to do more damage on Vez as a caster. But you're just gonna optimize Shadow Crash, only cast in the Shadow Crash as either Demo or Affliction. You just cast in the Crash and you'll do lots of damage. You do your modified rotation until the Animus comes out. Blow everything you have on the Animus, normal rotation, Animus dies, you kill Vezix. That's about it. You just have to master the modified rotation, which I went over in a previous video. For Affliction, you'll use Drain Soul to keep up Corruption, use UA, Agony, Doom, and for Demo, you'll be smashing your Soul Fires while keeping up Dots, Corruption, Immolate, and it's General Vez is my second favorite fight, Hodir is my favorite fight, so if you have any other questions, just let me know. Now Yogg. Yogg is weird as well. First of all, if you're not doing Zero Light, your parse instantly counts for less, so that's cool, but all the tentacles count, the guardians count, I guess the damage you do on your friends when they get mind control also counts. I just learned about that, like right now, so that's very neat. You need to have supreme uptime the entire fight on every ad possible. So guardians in the beginning, you need to just make sure you have your dots on these as they're coming in. They die very quickly. It's not very fair, I know, but you got to maintain your dots, and that'll quickly transition you into the next phase. Also look out for kicks as well. And then in the next phase, you just have to position yourself in a way where you can do damage to the Crusher Tentacle and the Corruptor Tentacles. Like, I would position myself between these two, and dot there, pound Shadow Bolts into that. Throw my pet at the other one, throw out some kicks as well, managing between those. They die pretty quick. And then the last phase, I would throw up a Corruption on the Immortal Guardian for some eradication procs, and just pump into Yogg. And honestly, nothing really changes between Demo or Affliction for this. It's just you need to have the most uptime you possibly can to have a good parse, and you also need to do Zero Light because the difficulty of the fight really determines what parse you have. I've seen people die immediately in Thorim, but they do hard mode Thorim, and that's like a free purple parse even if they died. So that's just how Ulduar works. Alright, Mr. Algabong. The things that count for Algalon are the stars. The stars count for damage to them. Living constellations don't count. And the dark matter at the end counts. So the thing about the stars, though, is that if you're damaging the stars and your hunter's trying to manage the black holes, the explosions, you're probably fucking over your raid. So you don't want to do damage to the stars. Maybe later when people master the fight, you'll be able to do damage to the stars, throw up dots. I saw a Foji video of Rank 1 World Affliction. He was putting like UA and Corruption on the stars. Unless you're told that you can do that, I would not do that, although that will increase your damage. So first thing you gotta do is kill Algalon and figure out your raid's limitations. Then you can find out if you can do dots to the stars. Do not put dots in the stars. I repeat, do not put dots on the stars unless you are told you can. But these dark matters in the sub 20% count in logs. I pulled up our hunter from our Algalon kill the other day to show you collapsing star damage counts in the logs. And for my Inferno, I dropped it on the Unleashed Dark Matter, so the dark matters count. This fight is all about using all of your abilities to survive: Shadow Ward, Healthstone, Death Coil, Port when you're near a Cosmic Smash. So your goal is to survive and then do damage. And maintaining your dots in rotation while doing all the survival stuff, like kicking with your Fell Hunter on the constellations, is what really separates you. This fight's not really a parse fight, but to parse you have to play very, very greedy. So once your guild is comfortable with this fight, I would look towards parsing it. That's about it. Hey guys, thanks for making it this far into the video. That was very long-winded, and I hope it helped in some way, made you think about fights in a different way, maybe things that you haven't considered before. But I spent a good amount of time trying to plan this out, and I really want all the Warlocks to succeed. There's a lot of us now, we're a growing family, and there's no way to go but up right now. So if you like what you saw, please subscribe, check me out at Twitch, and hopefully I can catch you in the next one. Peace.